I do think that's kind of interesting, the way the ordinance is written, I decided. Because it really talks about at the base, it really says who is supposed to collect resort tax, not what is supposed to be, resort tax is supposed to be collected on.
Oh, okay, it is now 5:30, whoever's in charge.
That's me, I'll call the meeting to order. I printed the ordinance, but I didn't print the agenda, so.
I know, it was like, it was crickets, I sent it out, anybody looking?
Oh, and so. Do you have it in front of you? The agenda?
Oh, there's some over on the
Oh,
thing.
okay. All right, call to order, done.
Okay.
Do you have the people in attendance recorded?
Yes, I do.
All right, great.
Including the online, first two.
Oh.
So how am I gonna do this? Because I usually share it with my iPad. I can maybe do it on my phone?
Do you know?
Update on resort tax expenditures. Oh,
Your iPad's right there. No.
That,
It's what?
Dead.
Do you just need a plug?
I got a plug. I got it. I can do it.
I'm here for technical support.
All right, so I mean, I'll just start quickly. I reviewed our current resort tax expenditures. The only thing that I saw that maybe needs an explanation is there was a $50,000 expenditure on the dot for Public Works that I don't know what that was for, in capital. Everything else seemed to be in line. We've spent about $350,000 so far. We've collected a little over $850,000, and we had $750 at the end of the budget year, so we have about $1.5 million minus the $300 that we spent, so it's about $1.1 something million. And that's just me doing some simple math.
And I think I need to go back and look at the warrants, but the 50K sounds high for that's not the Sanders. I remember.
Oh, good.
well, we paid for the listing too, that was,
No, but that wouldn't have been, he said it was a capital, if I heard correctly.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to shoot an email in, like I said, I was going to reach out to you saying if there's any additional information you want to have Lonnie pull, and I didn't, so shoot me.
I'll just pull it up here.
Actually, it's recent, right?
yeah, because it would have been since July 1st.
Oh, fine. Oh.
I mean, I don't know that it's a huge deal, right this second, so, but.
We did spend 30 on the lifting, but that would not have been capital. I do remember, not the vac truck.
No, that wouldn't have been 50.
Well, but there could have been
on the back.
50 awarded or something.
Yeah, it could have been, like, it's exactly 50, it was, in November, so,
Oh, is this not?
yeah. And then there was another 19,800 in capital improvements, and then 28,173 in Road Street and parking lots in capital. So those pieces would be great to let's just move on from that,
Okay.
and we'll get an update, next time, on that. Other than that, in terms of our, expenditures, income was 87597 year-to-date. 10,000 of that was interest, and the, expenditures were 335,225. And I said we started with a balance of 745.
Where are we year over year on collections?
That, I don't have. Oh, it's on the city website? Not sent to me. It is not updated. At least on the city website, it's not updated, so I don't know what. The last thing is the fourth quarter of last year. So, so for historical comparison, so last year, so this is probably maybe just to mention, so it can be a little confusing, I think, for us, for three reasons in reporting. One is we receive reports based on when the collection was incurred sometimes, not necessarily, so some of our reports are based on when what quarter the business collected it. So for example, when we look at collections for the fourth quarter of the fiscal year, those are actually collected April through June. But when we look at city budget reports, like when I say we've collected $800,000, that's actually money that was collected by the city in this fiscal year. So sometimes we just have to understand which set of reports that we're talking about. And then we still have the problem of sometimes we talk about things in city fiscal year quarters, and sometimes we talk about a calendar, depending on the report.
I was aware of that. I wasn't aware we had anything that was reported on the transaction date. I thought it was just when we collected the money is when we knew about it.
No, that is, these big reports, and I think this is helpful, right, is that the big reports report collection based on when it was.
The transactional.
Yes, when it occurred. So for last year,
So it's a cash basis instead of.
No, it's an accrual basis.
Is it accrual?
Yes, accrual basis. And so, depending on how you think about it.
Yeah, because cash is when you're reporting it when you receive the money.
Yeah, so this is.
Versus accrual would be.
When it was incurred. Yeah, so this is accrual.
Yeah.
So what the report shows, out of interest, is total last year, we were up 9.8% over the year previous. So that would be July of '23 through June of '24, we were up 9.8% over that same period last year. So we're not really looking, that doesn't include what kind of business happened in Red Lodge this budget year. And the money for that first fiscal quarter has been collected, but it has not been reported, at least as of that I see. And our collections are up significantly overall. So we're at almost 18,000, 17,900, and I assume this is for both the 3% and the 1% together.
It does not say that on the
Generally,
report.
it's 2 sheets, isn't it?
They kind of do
Yeah, 1 sheet is the 3 and 1 is the 1.
one,
Right.
and, but then they have one that they do all 4.
That is not the way this sheet is set up, so, that's gonna be my assumption is that's the way it is because of the fact that it's. So, one of the things we may wanna sit down and have a conversation about is, we should look at the reports that the city produces, and we should probably make sure they're standardized and understood and presented in a way that we want. Does that make sense? So that we're always looking at, and there can be multiple reports that report money and, report things in different ways. But that would be my suggestion, is that we have a conversation about that. Does anybody have any comments on that or questions?
Just, you just have to make sure you're not messing with the way the auditors record our income. Like, when we.
I am not talking about anything that has
Yeah.
to do with auditors. I'm
Okay.
talking
But I meant
about
like
how
with-
it's reported to us.
Right, with our
and to the
reports,
community.
though, when they're looking at the report on when we get the resort tax money, so we don't go over, like, we don't wanna mess up one year
That's it.
by
So-
changing it.
So we will not,
Okay.
we will not be messing it, I'm not suggesting at all that we
change
mess
the-
with the
okay.
accounting that
Okay,
Lonnie does.
okay,
That's a different,
okay,
that is a completely different, animal. And what I'm talking about is how, the reports are generated for us in the public,
okay.
which is different than how accounting happens.
As long as when we're recommending, how much to
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna
budget
have,
for our income.
so you're gonna have to, so it depends on how you think about things, right? So collections for accounting, the city uses a cash basis accounting generally. And, so the collections are reported based on when the cash comes in
Correct,
to the city. Is generally not how we're interested in resort tax data.
okay, that makes sense to me, sorry. Okay,
And that's where my confusion was too, because I guess, yeah, we count it when we get it, but that tells us when quarters are good and when months are good, et cetera.
And it does it by the quarter, and so there's lots of different reports out there that happen at different times that report differently, and I think we should probably just need to we just have to have a standard way of presenting that, and then have deadlines for when those reports come in, so that we understand.
Because I was just looking, this is the middle of November, which just means really that, so let's see, it's
okay, we're due October 20th, for July, August, and
So
September.
we should have, so due October 20th, we should have those then by now, but you're saying that's not out there.
It's not out there, but, I mean, we're not even 30 days after the due date, so I don't know that that's unreasonable either. If you were to say, I mean, I know, I don't know what's reasonable for the staff to produce, how long it takes to process all those payments and
Depends on how
Build-
short staffed they are.
build the reports and do that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on that?
No.
Update on Resort Tax Association and annual meeting, May 21st, middle.
Did you get the invite for that? In your email, that it was gonna be in Medlock?
Yes, I did.
So that's why I just didn't know if whoever went to the meeting last time, if you know anything about
Dave
it or
was the
wanted to
one who
report
was
on
there.
it.
We were there,
I was online.
I volunteered. Tom sent me a message and said you should volunteer, and we already had, so.
Yeah.
He said we could have it at the Pollard, so that's, I haven't
It's great
seen-
that it's gonna be here, that's awesome.
Convenient.
I haven't seen additional information on it, but I have.
So maybe we should reach out to them and see what we need to do to help coordinate that. I'm happy.
Tell me the day to get that again. It's
May
June?
24th,
May
21st,
21st.
I'm 21st, I'm sorry, May 21st.
May 21, okay?
Yeah, is what I have on the, hopefully that's right. It was in the
I guess I'm
email.
a board member now too, so I should reach out.
Yes.
What is needed to make it spectacular?
Mhm. So what's the difference between their annual meeting and do they meet quarterly, or do they have like a?
I think it's Semi-annually, so the other one is actually just in conjunction with the Montana League,
Okay.
that they did that one.
And it'll be at the Pollard?
That's not finalized yet, but that is the thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, 21st, 3:30 to 5.
And it's going to be a mix of, who did that email come from? Jeremy?
Tammy Estenson. ESTEN.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
That's all I just have is the accepted date.
Yeah, that's all I got too, and then that's why I thought, stuck it on there.
More information to come.
Okay, perfect.
As far as the other meeting,
The other
the meeting that was held in West Yellowstone in terms of their direction, I'm trying to think about what the highlights were. To me, it seems like,
thing was filling positions, which we did.
yeah,
And then there was some discussion about the lobbying efforts, and was gonna be lobbying efforts we were all interested in or not.
but there was no really overarching direction of what the lobbying was gonna look like, which is mildly concerning, but
They
we'll
were-
just keep on.
They were hiring the firm who was basically gonna watch and see if there's any bills that will tax resort taxes, my recollection.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bills that, yeah.
Are they
Hard
gonna
to keep up on.
vote to approve any kind of guiding principles for that lobbying? I guess that's,
That's what I would
They
say. There's
did
not,
do it, so we
yeah.
did the next best thing, which was, I got on the board, so we have a say in it.
that's better than nothing.
Well, and like, working in insurance, you know, they have the big I, and they are kind of that branch of that. And basically, any bill that gets written with anything about insurance, they send out. And they like have watched, you know, this would be detrimental to our industry, this would be, you know, we support this.
I think the question for us with the Resort Tax Association is, what are, what things will they see as detrimental or advantageous?
Right.
And will we agree with those?
Right.
So that's the question.
And since you don't have that, I would hope that, you know, they would just be on the watch for anything with the sales tax, local option tax, anything like that.
Hopefully they'll keep us informed and there'll be
Right.
communication as things come. So.
Since I did read that, they are expecting property taxes to go up another 32% in Carbon County in
If
2025.
they don't
Do
adjust
something.
the tax rate.
Well, are they expecting property taxes to go up or the valuation to go up? Those are two very different things.
Valuation, yeah, that's gonna go up, but they could offset it by adjusting the tax
Do you
rate. Like,
recognize either one of these guys? One is Westwood, and the blonde
Hello?
is on the council meeting, but I don't recognize those other two.
I'm just gonna.
We can introduce ourselves.
I'm gonna, Judy, yeah, let me go ahead and have people introduce themselves. So, yeah, that's Dave. Tom, you're next.
Tom Coons.
Jeremy Battles?
Joy Goodwin. Jody Ronning. So, yeah, I think you probably read the same story I did. That
Yeah, I
if-
was watching
basically, if they don't lower the amount assessed,
Right,
Yeah.
the
So-
taxable.
So the question is, there will be bills, I guarantee you,
right,
that will be
That's-
proposed
Yeah.
to add a statewide sales tax to offset property tax.
Sales tax is one thing, but there's also the homestead exemption, that's
Yeah.
a big one.
Yeah. But in terms of for us,
Mm.
now, the governor's saying he won't sign that, so that doesn't mean that it won't get overridden.
right.
But it's hard to know, and that could affect our resort tax depending. So, it will be a little interesting. I do not think they will try to take away the resort taxes. That would be shocking if they did that, but,
I haven't heard anything about that yet.
yeah.
Well, I mean, is it just, I'm thinking like, because coming from Minnesota, for example, like the state has has a sales tax, and then the counties have sales tax, and the cities have sales tax,
Yes.
and so it's like, how can if the state just passes it, is it would they put a thing in place? Are you saying that they would put a thing in place that would just say there's no?
I'm just saying we don't know
Okay.
what they would do.
That's what we-
That's all
That
I'm
would be like
saying,
a worst-case
I'm
scenario.
just saying, yeah, we
Yeah,
just don't
like
know what they would
overreach.
do.
Seems like a lot of overreach.
The conversations from all of the people that we have access to are that this is not going to be a repeat of last year. That they're aware of the pain point and the one-time fix, and they're gonna do
There's gonna be
the
something.
homestead.
There's gonna be something. They're definitely gonna do something with property tax.
There will be something. They'll either fix the prices or we'll have a small revolution in the state, one or the other.
I know, exactly, yeah, okay. Right,
All right, any other comments or questions on the Resort Tax Association? All right, 5-year review of the resort tax ordinance.
so I just had something, from staff, Danae, because I asked her to kind of give us some feedback of things that, you know, they ran into. And so she didn't have a lot of time to work on it, but, number one, of course, was the, some type of exclusion for nonprofits, you know, so that unless it's in the course of their business, their daily business. Because right now we just have ticket sales, but if they want to have a fundraiser, like a bake sale, you know, we had talked about exempting that from, resort tax, because specifically we just say ticket sales right now.
So the question is exemptions for nonprofits and how we handle those.
Correct, so
Okay.
that was number one, and then, bonding requirements, she said she'd like it if we updated it to allow vendors the ability to do a cash bond held during the time of the event, and also the ability for businesses to umbrella their vendors. We do that now, it's just not written in the ordinance, so she'd like, and that's like if a vendor comes in just for a weekend event, they put up $500 cash, and then they come in and pay the resort tax, and they get the $500 cash back. They don't accept checks because, you know, anybody can write a check, so. And then the umbrella, the vendors is like the, farmer's market does it, the, Catholic Church does it for their, and if I have a pop-up, I do it. But basically, I'm taking responsibility that they're going to collect resort tax, and then I pay the resort tax.
Have we ever collected on a bond?
We're collected on a bond.
Have we ever had to rely on the bond?
Yeah, has anyone ever forfeited a bond or,
$500?
yeah?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I can ask Danae. I would think if someone collected, you know, had a lot of sales, then they said, here's your you know, it's
So what-
wash.
so
I don't know.
Just some thoughts that I had on that, because
Okay.
I put some notes, is that, so $500 is $16,000. No, it's not, it's less than that, because it's 4%, I did it on 3, excuse me. 500 divided by 0.04, it's $1,250 in sales.
500, no, that was, is that right?
Yeah.
$500?
Yeah. Yeah,
No, that's 40%.
so it's 12,000.
I'm like, wait.
125, did I did that wrong?
Yeah, so it's 12,000.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I
That's
said
not correct.
12,000. I said, sorry, 12,000, I
Yeah.
said 1,200, no, 12,000, because it's,
For you, that's nothing, but for mom and pop's donut shop, it may be significant.
well,
You're just saying, is it worthwhile to have a bond that?
is it worthwhile to have a bond for that amount of money, or is 500 enough? I mean, we had a $500 bond 25 years ago, that hasn't changed.
We did, and that was like and the thing is most people don't buy a bond. They just do cash in lieu of, so they give them a $500 check, and then after a year of paying your resort tax, you get the $500 back,
Okay.
is what happens. So, yes, I think that, $12,000 in sales. I mean, we kind of know if they haven't reported in a quarter, or, you know, that there's gonna be issues. But I think you're gonna have bigger problems than that. It's more for those, I don't know, Dave, what do you,
I'm just a tech guy.
I mean, they cash the check, you give them $500, they cash the check, and a year later, if you report, file all your reports on time and pay your resort tax on time, you get it back. Now, do we make it so that the city gets to keep it until they're out of business and no longer have a business license versus sending
Well,
back these $500
the other part, I
checks?
think where I heard
I don't
Tom going was, if somebody's gonna come into town and do a couple $100,000 worth of sales so they can survive, $500 is nothing.
Right,
But on the flip side, we also don't wanna ask so much of them that they're going to, that we prevent them from A, coming, or B, being successful.
right.
But then, was your thought just eliminate it altogether?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of those. That's just a conversation piece, right? Is the bond useful? Does it serve its purpose? Is it adequate? Is it too high? Is it too low? I mean, the bond's probably one of it's a big part of the financial transaction, right? And so,
Right.
So let me throw out.
it's a lot of
and there is
accounting,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of accounting, it's a lot of effort. If we're never collecting it, but then you can come back and also say, well, that's because people want to get their money back, so then so.
Well, and I think it was actually created more, it's not just for businesses coming into town, brick and mortar, or, someone who's gonna be in business for hopefully multiple years. It was mainly for the short-term vendors that come in for events, to make sure that they just don't leave and they pay their resort tax.
It's a bulk in number of entities, not a bulk of the cash.
Right,
And then I'm gonna throw into that conversation, Tom, this will come up a little bit later. We have 2 requests from waivers, not from the late fees, but of the penalties that are coming in and doing
yeah, that's,
an appeal.
that was.
And
Janae's
so
last
that's,
thing, so.
one of them, by the way, owes $49 in resort tax for the quarter and has a $750
Fine.
late fee associated
That's
with
just
it.
stupid.
I know, and that's what Janae's last thing was, our penalties. Would we consider a one-time waiver of penalties based on payment history, or possibly a sliding scale penalty based on the amount owed? Instead of just, you get $750 fine, and you have to go to city council, who, the last time that happened, just said no, so.
Now, but now having said that, the last time it came in, I think the general tenor of the front office was this one doesn't warrant it. And the 2 that we have,
$49 just seems silly.
but that's what our fee is we're not gonna, and by the way, we don't send them a notice and say you're 30 days late. We send them a notice that says you're 60 days late, so it's now $250 plus $500, so it's $750. And then the only way out of that is an appeal to council. And one of the things is we are going to have, in the near future, at the next meeting, they'll be picking a date to have an appeals meeting so far I've got 2 candidates that have come in and asked for that. They don't have they're not problem people. But one of the things is if the feedback from this board is, yeah, that's stupid, and we're gonna change that so that's not the case, or there's gonna be a one-time waiver or something else, my thinking is that'll weigh into how those hearings go when council gets the input from this board.
Yeah,
If the answer is, yeah, that's stupid, and I remember, and I was there, Tom, as were you, when those were discussed, and part of the discussion was, no, it can't just be a percentage of what their late fee is, because it doesn't mean anything to somebody who's small. It's cheaper for me to float it and not pay it. I remember that being part of the conversation too.
I mean, you have to have a penalty, but at the same time, but I am not opposed to giving, someone else besides council the ability to waive that fee, at least if there's no prior history of them being late.
The fine has to be commensurate with the crime.
I
mean, it does, right? So what you're saying is that because they were 30 days late, they're gonna,
60 days late, they're paying $750 on $49.
And we didn't notify them after the first 30 days?
Most
We don't.
government entities don't.
Okay,
Yeah, and like when I file
Which
quarterly.
to me is,
they
the
don't.
only part that's funny about that is I almost wonder why we pick 30 and 60 days for the fine points if we don't notify.
yeah, I mean, you can't
Yeah.
fine them if you haven't notified them,
Yeah,
right?
that seems,
That seems
yeah,
The
that
silly.
IRS does it all the time.
And ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? I'm just gonna put on the hat of a couple of council members.
And
I
if
mean,
I-
I guess, and that,
And if I pay my property taxes late, the interest just
Yeah.
cascades right on there, like.
Well, and that's one of those things where if it's a percentage of it's an interest, then it's there. But you had a resistance to that, that's my recollection, Tom, because you said, I'm not gonna do it because what's 1.5% of $49?
Well, it needs to, probably needs to be bigger than 1.5% then, because like, to your point, yeah, I think like then the float just becomes like, well, then why pay it? You know, my money's worth more to me in my pocket than,
Yeah.
you know, so I do think that there needs to be some sort of balance, but I also agree with like empowering whoever's collecting the fee, just like a bank teller can waive bank fees, why
Right.
would we not empower someone to be like, on any account, you can do it once every 2 years or something like that?
so they're paying 1,530% of their collections?
Well, they're appealing paying that. They're selling the property and getting out of the business. That's not the only contributing factor. But now where that tied into this conversation was that $500 bond comes into play. Your bond is enough to pay for the penalties anyway, if you did
Right.
the $750 bond, because that's what the penalties are. That's where I looped it into your.
There was definitely some controversy over this in the past, so maybe we want to, because, isn't there a percentage penalty too?
Yeah, there is. And that starts when you're, is it 30 days late? Then you start paying interest, the tax on interest per day. Oh, no, you pay interest right away.
You
and
pay
then-
interest immediately.
Yeah.
30
every-
days is when you get
One
the
day
250
late, you start
penalty.
paying interest, and then if you're 30 days late, you get a $250 penalty, and if you're 60 days late, you get another $500 penalty, so it's $750.
Do we know how any of the other any of the other cities that do resort tax,
And,
they
and
assess their
that
fees?
was the other thing that Danae said, maybe we should review other communities' ordinances, see how they do theirs, so.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's some sort of precedent, just,
We're pretty early in the precedent-setting stage. We're one of the early adopters.
Yeah.
Well, but that doesn't mean we
West
have
is
the
there,
best,
yeah.
the best processes.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely needs to be high enough to defer people from doing it, but I also just, I guess I don't see the issue with just letting whoever's collecting it waive a fee if it seems reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a one-time, they've never been late before, I mean, and we could put that in the ordinance, we can
Yeah.
spell out when they qualify for a waiver, when staff can, yeah. if they-
I would say the
penalties
staff may, the staff may waive the penalty if it is the first time the person failed to pay and
First offense.
they pay within 30 days of being notified by the city.
That seems fair.
Then that's, I mean, it kind of, that gives a piece, it gives them a bookend that's reasonable. So if it's your first offense and you pay within 30 days of being notified by the city, then it can be waived. And the nice thing about that is, after that 30 days, now there's no waiver period, right? Like, there's no, even if it was $49, you've been notified, and,
Right. And that was kind of what the recommendation was. And my only ask, this is going back to Pete Fratelli days, is just tell them what the parameters are. Like, I don't even think it has to be the mayor. It can be staff if A, B, and C are
yes,
met.
exactly, yep. So, that doesn't help this situation, but it does go into a note for the ordinance rewrite.
Well, it may in fact help this if council knows that is what the ordinance rewrite recommendation is. I think that they are allowed to consider that as they.
Yeah.
And then, the bonding requirements, like you say, I don't know. The only place that was selling those bonds, I think, was State Farm. You had to pay like $100 for a $500 bond. And it was
And you
easier.
didn't get your $100.
You did get your $100 back because you paid for a bond.
Yeah.
I'd
and-
pay my $500, but.
I know, and that's why everybody just started
I
writing
assume
$500
we have a
checks.
trust account that $500 sits in?
I presume so. I don't run it, but that seems like normal practices and.
Just, yeah, that would be good too. So when we come back to that bonding and collection, the ordinance is not clear in my mind. This is every business subject to resort tax must provide a bond in the amount of $500 payable to the city of Red Lodge to assert compliance in the resort tax period. So that's not really what it means, because then it has an alternatively
And we need to add that
And
they
so
can pay a
this needs to
deposit,
be
$500.
clarified, and really it needs to be rewritten. So I think this needs to be rewritten regardless. And what the intent is to say is, any new business collecting the resort tax must provide $500 in cash, or a $500 revocable letter of credit, or a $500 bond, right?
Mhm.
To ensure that they pay their resort tax on time or whatever.
Yeah.
So then the question is,
How long do we keep it?
how long do you keep it and why do you keep it? Because it says if business fails to collect and remit the tax, right,
Mhm.
the city shall revoke the bond, but there's no time frame in that. Again, right?
And they're
So-
doing a year, but we need to spell that out.
Well, but if it failed to remit the tax, in what time frame? Right? Within 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? So if you pay it after 10 years, you get your 500 back? There just needs to be more specificity there.
After 6, just as
Thank you.
second timekeeping.
So, yeah, so I think this just needs to be rewritten for clarity.
Well, I think it needs to match what they're doing now unless we want to change how they're doing it.
Yeah, we either want to change what they're doing, and then we probably need to just have a conversation. Does anybody think 500 is too much? It's not enough. I mean, it has been 500 for 25 years.
I think that that's a reasonable amount, especially for our short-term vendors coming in. I mean, you're doing a weekend of sales, chances of doing, I mean, that's a lot of sales, $12,000, you know.
That's what you're selling.
Yeah, it does, but, yeah. I don't know what a food truck does in a weekend. No idea. That's true.
Depends on the weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so,
I mean, it's probably, I mean, that would be a lot for a food truck to sell too.
yeah.
But,
And she wanted us also to make sure that, if it is a short-term vendor, that we say that they pay $500 cash, and not the others.
okay.
Because she doesn't want to take, the city
Because
doesn't
of
take
the
a check
bookkeeping
from
side.
somebody, because, you know, they could just sleep.
Well, it says cash
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yes, I mean, the question is, do you want to say $500 irrevocable letter of credit or a bond, right?
Right,
But-
yeah.
So, the cash deposit, must place $500 or tax deposit. You could get rid of the irrevocable letter of credit and the bond too, and just say,
I know,
they
and
must
honestly,
pay-
I would just get rid of those.
and just say
No bonding company
must.
wants to write those anyway.
yeah.
And if you try to collect against a bond, they go back against the person that got the bond in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an insurance policy, it's a bond,
Yeah.
so then they're gonna be out $600. Because they paid for a bond that people don't understand.
So maybe think about this as a deposit.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
We just reword that throughout the document.
Yeah, yeah,
Sounds
yeah.
much easier to understand.
Okay, what else we got?
Okay, just the nonprofit, are we okay changing it to, any nonprofit fundraising
Yeah.
event, whether it's ticket sales or whatever, as long as it's not in the normal course of business, they don't have to collect.
And I'm gonna suggest that we reword this whole thing,
Okay,
because, and I, it will obviously need legal review, but it starts out with saying the resort tax is imposed on businesses. And my feeling for the practice
yeah,
is that actually the resort tax must be collected by any business that sells the following items.
Business
Right.
or nonprofit.
Business or not, well, yeah.
Or you can put in
Yeah.
the definition of business.
What he's saying is it can take up half the space if you start out by saying, here's where it is.
Yeah, here's, so instead of saying these businesses, hotels, motels, and lodging facilities, restaurants, fast food services, taverns and bars, ski resorts,
On the second or third page.
and businesses that sell luxuries. Well, and then we divide up, then you go into the next page, and it talks about hotels and what they're selling and lodging. It actually doesn't list grocery stores anywhere in here. It says retail sales of goods. It's just the way it's organized doesn't really make sense. Because it's organized kind of by business that sells it, not by the items that are being sold. And so really what we are interested in, because do we care if the law office down the street decides to start selling tacos, they need to collect the tax,
exactly,
right?
that's true.
And so
Yeah.
it's not.
And
it's
they
not-
need to pay $250 for their business
Yeah,
registration.
and it's interesting, because it starts out like hotels and motels, and then goes into luxury, lodging, and then it has luxuries, which is not a business class, now that's an item class.
Yeah.
And then it goes back in, then it starts rentals and retails, and so it's just, it's,
And that-
It's unanimous that we need a rewrite.
yeah, so I think we should just rewrite that, and I mean, it wouldn't take long, it just is, and I'm happy to do it.
I say, come volunteer.
I mean, it really is, and it really is
So-
very similar to, like, this says non-food items, sporting goods, food items. We just have a lot of duplication because we're listing it in multiple.
If it's
So-
half the size when we're done, that's an
Yeah.
improvement.
So that would be section, 2-4-4
Yeah,
will be rewritten?
yeah,
Okay.
and basically say any business within the city of Red Lodge that sells any of the following
Right.
must collect the tax,
Or any entity
or any entity, yeah.
instead of
entity.
business.
Yeah, a nonprofit is business, by the way, but,
Is it?
yes.
So is it then any for-profit business that sells?
No.
No.
Yeah,
because-
yeah, so just
because-
say any business, and then you provide the exemption for the Girl Scouts and the
Right.
church ladies.
And, yeah, and.
But I thought nonprofits weren't, well, except for, well, we had one that came in that we came and reviewed, that's the buses.
That's the yellow.
What they sell something, it's pricey, but it is, the way it's written right now, it is very explicitly a ticket that is a fundraiser for a nonprofit.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
we're not gonna mess with the 65 nonprofits in there.
Well, and, yeah,
We love it.
and the other thing, Danae, that would be a good idea, if we took, the prior, decisions that prior mayors have made on what's exempt, or, when questions came up, that we review those as a group as
Could
well.
someone summarize them?
Yeah, we could do that.
Summarize them where they, I mean, really what would be great is to get a
Three
summary.
that fell this category, two that fell this category.
Yes, summarize the ones that seem like they, like, if it says we're not gonna collect them on furniture, well, furniture's not listed anymore, but that would be okay, right,
So I don't, just for the record, yeah, I don't think the number is really, I've done one.
Yeah, obviously, because
Yeah.
we're again, 25 years into this. I would say I found one to be very funny in our list of things.
Only one.
Yeah, only one, because it says rentals, automobile, truck, trailers, and RVs, et cetera. And to me, I don't see renting a U-Haul from AY Supply as a luxury.
Right.
And so I don't know how that, I'm sure they don't collect it currently.
Is that in the exempt list or in the target?
No, it's not, we
It
have
is.
rentals listed, and it's automobiles, trucks, trailers, and RVs. It's just a weird category because of our community, that we don't have we don't have a enterprise at the airport, which that would probably make
We
sense.
have had times,
Had some folks, yeah, so it, so I think that just has to be looked at, so that we're not, if someone rents a dump trailer, like,
Oh, yeah, like for a construction site.
Yeah,
then
but like
that would be-
that-
Well, that's a necessity by
Yeah.
definition. I'm
Yeah.
not,
But-
I'm not, well, unless,
But
You're still
But
renting it.
it's just not clear, like, so that's a clarification thing that I think we
Yeah,
could,
because when we
you know-
cleaned out my mother-in-law's house, we like had to get a dumpster.
yeah. so-
And I'm pretty sure Republic Services did not charge us.
No,
a
and
resort tax.
then, yeah, so, and it's, you know, again, and if you moved from South Hagen to North Platte and you get a U-Haul
Right.
at AY Supply,
Yeah,
that's not, I don't think anyone is thinking we would collect resort tax on that.
But an electric bike and a slingshot.
But an electric bike and a slingshot, we
Right,
should,
yeah.
so we just have to be able to clarify.
and
then
a
when I
car.
rewrite that, I'll
Rent
try
a
to.
car while you're on vacation, you should pay resort tax.
Exactly,
So,
yes.
okay.
But if Boyd's Motorsports or Northcutt rents you a car while they're doing work on your car,
that's a necessity.
again, that's a different, like, I would not
They give
expect
you
to
a
pay
loan.
resort tax on that, so,
Side by side to go hunting.
a side-by-side to go hunting,
Or
yeah,
go
maybe
touring
now, but
priors
that's,
or
yeah,
whatever.
but if you're from Kentucky, so that's, the side-by-sides probably should be collected on, so, yeah, that's a different thing.
Okay.
Golf carts. Right.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Too.
No, this makes sense.
Anybody else have anything else there?
No, that was really inclusive, because I agree with you, like, I got stuck on all the lists of things and things being repeated and whatever, like, this is really redundant.
Yeah.
What happened, I think, is it got listed one way once, and then got amended and listed a different way, and then we redid it again and added things in different categories, then the categories aren't the same as the other categories, so,
Just out of curiosity, I mean, we could get more specific and go by, I mean, if we really wanted to, like, get very specific on what we charge resort tax on, we could look at doing NAICS codes. We want to get to that level?
no,
Is that necessary?
I think it would be
Okay.
confusing.
I think it would be, but I just want to make sure, like, if people are like, well, if we start getting into rentals, it's like, oh, well, this is a car rental for this versus this is a car rental for that. There are actually different NAICS codes for those things, so I just, that's why I throw it out there. But
Yeah,
that could be.
and, but we tried.
You know more about that than I think
But-
I do about.
I know.
You lost the rest of
I know,
us in that
Thanks,
part.
right?
Sorry,
Make it
sorry,
look
didn't
good.
No, it's good,
Sorry.
it's good, yeah.
What?
Yeah, sorry. I'll pretend I strike that.
No, I think it's helpful to think about different ways that we could possibly do things, right? But I think
You
simpler, I
mean like
think.
NAIC codes?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, thank
Sorry.
you. I've never
Yeah.
heard it said
Yeah.
like that. I'm
Yeah,
like, what?
sorry.
Okay.
I think
Now I know what
those
you're
just
talking
get,
about.
they can be very granular, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it just might get more confusing.
Yes,
Okay,
And people might use it to evade.
I know.
yes.
Well, and,
All the things.
Yeah.
Welcome from somebody who works in the tax division.
Yeah.
I know.
People do stuff.
Okay, any other questions on this? I'm gonna keep moving this on. You guys
Yeah,
can, we won't have a quorum after I leave.
That's-
No, we
that's
won't.
okay, we'll,
So-
we'll end.
okay. So, and I don't know if we've got, so public outreach survey. I had really good intentions. You did this quite a while ago,
Yeah.
and I had intentions of putting it into a program so we could look at it.
Okay.
I think we should probably do that by next time and just get it looked at, and then we can start to play with it. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
That sounds great.
And I did, just, so you know, sorry for the lateness on the minutes, but I did send out
I
3
got them.
monthly minutes from our last 3 meetings, I
Yeah.
apologize. And Chris has offered to be secretary in January when she's no longer on council. So
Okay.
that might help a little
Okay,
bit.
so she will stay on this board.
Yeah, because she was voted in, and I'm the council rep, I was the
Yeah,
council
yeah,
rep,
yeah,
so, yeah, so she'll still be on it. So, and she said she'd be secretary, unless someone else is dying to do it.
I don't think anybody is gonna jump at that.
Okay.
She said she's willing, that's like,
I know, it was like bonus, you're, thank you. So we can approve those at the next one.
yes, can we do, yeah, so put that on here. Okay, we've got a couple of folks on Zoom. Does anybody have any comments or questions for the Zertax committee? Come off.
I do not. Thank you, though.
Judy, do you have any questions or comments?
I think that is none.
Um, Okay,
Meeting adjourned at 6:19.
yeah, if anybody doesn't have anything else.
Just, I did send out an email letting everyone know that I did tell everyone at council what the resort tax recommendation was on putting up for a vote again to change.
Okay,
I
great.
did, but at that meeting, Sandy and Cynthia were gone, so they didn't get the message until after. So,
I do, put maybe a request for you as our council rep, could you at the next meeting report on our appointments and, where we are in our terms?
yes.
Because
I have no idea. But I was reading the ordinance, which says we serve very specific terms, and I don't know what those are.
But mine was only like a year, like, so, I mean.
Well, they started out because it was, so they're staggering, and they
Okay.
should be posted online, but we have found that, we got them all corrected once, and then they did a website refresh, and we lost.
It's hard to come up with that stuff.
Terms and appointments.
I would, before we, adjourn, I would point out just, and this is just some of the, looking at these pieces, like if you look at, the percentages in this thing, it says that, in motels, we were up 51% over the previous year, food was up 55, liquor was up 48, and retail was up 38%, but everything together was up 9.8%.
That's
So-
the problem.
Yeah, so we really just need to look at, I think they've got some, formulas in the spreadsheets that are not correct.
Yeah,
And, I think, again, just trying to figure out, so maybe just since we have, I've got like 1 minute, maybe think about if there's what you would like from the reporting.
Mhm.
I do know getting to monthly reporting is really important to us.
right.
And if we believe there needs to be a change in the ordinance, I do not believe there does, to require people to report the monthly numbers. Now that we
Yeah.
should be all on the same forms, and people should be
Yeah.
reporting monthly. But, what kind of information do we want? And obviously there is, there may be multiple reports, we just have to be clear about what that report is, right? Whether it's based on when the resort tax was collected by the business or when the money was received by the council. It's two different ways to, talk about.
Right, because it's like that, but I think in the reporting form right now, it's when the city gets it, is when it's going in there, and it isn't?
Not in this, no.
Oh my gosh, okay, I'm totally reading those reports wrong then.
Yes.
I have any better ones.
Yeah,
Yes.
Hopefully,
because we're
to
just
get
kind
you
of
through the
guessing
first
what
part.
they're actually saying, apparently I am.
Have enough juice to get you through the first part of your next.
Yes.
meeting.
Write down
Yeah.
the ideal
Did they
report.
give you a percentage?
I know.
They should charge pretty quickly. What's your percentage?
Oh, yeah, this is all done. This thing charges really fast on this thing. It's
So you
62%.
can use it for your next meeting?
Yeah.
I'll send you a bill.
All right, thank you guys.
These things keep getting smaller. This is a 100 watt.